We would never have been able to muster our multidisciplinary team across 3 central places, Cambridge, Malta and Belfast. An ERC project gives you that facility. It's been fantastic to have that sort of resource. Archaeology is a particularly good interdisciplinary subject. We're looking at history, we're looking at anthropology, we're looking at dietary studies, we're looking at climate change, we're looking at soils, we're looking at materials, we're using modern technologies, we're using cutting-edge science. And it all comes together to answer a very simple question: what happened to a civilization? Malta is a remote place, one of the most remote islands of the Mediterranean, but one of the really interesting things is this civilization. They get there. So we're really spanning a period from the first settlement about 5,500 BC through to the end of the temple period around 2000 BC when the Bronze Age takes off. We started to ask questions about why this culture and this civilization emerged and why it seemed to suddenly fail. And the idea of collapse in civilization is an important and interesting one, and it's one thing that affects us today. We need to know what our impact is on the natural environment, on the resources we exploit.
We're looking at questions of agriculture, what people ate. We're trying to reconstruct the demographic structure of the society in Malta in prehistory, the ratio of children to adults, the number of people that lived into advanced age, and how healthy they were and how they managed to sustain themselves, and by extension how this remarkable and unique culture came about.
Well, these are animal bones that we've excavated from one of the sites, and there's a sheep toe and a bit of skull here and things like that. These have been part of the diet of these prehistoric people. We can reconstruct the farming pattern, the intensity of agriculture, and actually what they're doing is they're killing off more than half their stock every summer before the fodder runs out because the place is so short of food. These are dated from about 3,500 BC, before the civilization of the pyramids of Egypt. What we have here in Malta is the beginning of an intensive island civilization where they maximise everything and they create some extraordinary buildings and art. We've got complex megalithic building structures, not just your typical stone circle or something. These are structures in which people had roofed buildings, some sort of ritual feasting structures, how we interpret them. We have dug up, a couple of tons of pottery probably over the last 3 years. Malta's a very sophisticated place when it comes to the firing of pottery. Some of them are about 1 metre across. This is called the Sleeping Lady of the Halsaflieni Hypogym. And one of the questions about Malta always has been, who are these images about? We think they're probably some sort of ancestral gods. Objects would have been brought out and placed on these benches at the front as part of seasonal ceremonies, feasts, things like that. Pulling together everybody at the end of the season and, killing whatever it is, the calves or something like that, and having a great big feast. This would have been part of the way that society would have rebonded itself in difficult times.
Now these are our site excavation records. At the end of each excavation we plan everything that we find and make sure that it's all recorded. We've been using new and emerging technologies like laser scanning and structure from motion photogrammetry. It's all about translating the data from the field into knowledge about the past.
We've been taking cores from the valley bottoms of soil, going down 10 or even 30 metres in 1 or 2 places, and these are then brought home in blocks, put in the fridge, and the pollen, the ancient pollen, is extracted, and you can work out whether you've got pine trees, birch trees, oak trees, cereal grains, dandelions, whatever, and this builds up a fantastic picture.
And one of the things we're interested in this project is collapse and what happens to landscapes when people aren't there. When people aren't there, there's no archaeology to excavate, so we have to look at the environment. The environment always responds in some way to changing conditions. There's some change that environmental systems can never recover from. That, I think, is one of the major contributions that our project will be able to make to scientific knowledge more generally.
And ultimately, climate is going to be perhaps the most important thing that comes out of this. The climate story, as well as the human story, is one that comes together. And it may be that climate is what knocks out this early civilization. We're going to be able to exhibit a lot of this material in the National Museum in Malta next year as part of Valletta City of Culture of Europe. And we're going to be writing a series of monographs which bring all this data together, where we're going to make sure that there's a long history for this material. So a good ERC project shouldn't just be about now. We're looking at the past and we're hopefully developing the future as well.
It's a great project to be involved in because it's a game changer.